Ugh, Seattle. What happened? This was supposed to be your year. I mean, it was set up perfectly for you. You're the defending MLS Cup champs, you've got the easiest path to the final of any MLS team by far, and you already got 2 away goals in the first leg. How did you blow this? And no, the fact that Olympia went on to knock off Montreal in the next round doesn't make it any better. Yeah, 2020 CCL was a massive letdown for Sounders fans. Because no disrespect to Olympia, but Seattle were the heavy favorites in this one. And I don't know if anyone outside of Honduras really believed that Olympia had a shot in this one. The Sounders have made the CONCACAF Champions League more times than any other MLS team, with 2022 being their 7th appearance. But to be honest, they haven't been that great in their first 6 appearances. Last in the group stages in 2010-2011, smacked by a 7-3 goal aggregate in the quarterfinals in 2011-2012, a semifinal appearance in 2012-2013, hey, that's pretty good. They even managed to beat Liga MX side Tigres in the quarters. But then they went back to being knocked out in the quarters in 2015-2016, knocked out in the quarters again in 2018, and then, of course, that embarrassing round of 16 defeat to Olympia in 2020. I don't know if I even need to say it, because at this point, Liga MX's dominance in this tournament is pretty well known. Since rebranding to the Champions League, Liga MX has never lost. 13 editions, 13 Liga MX champs. Now, Seattle has been the model franchise for MLS pretty much since they arrived. Matt Doyle wrote an article explaining why they've been so successful. I recommend everyone check it out, but I'll summarize it here. Strong academy? Check. Killer DPs? Check. Savvy veterans? Check. Virtually no weaknesses in the lineup, for MLS standards, year after year? Check. And a head coach that players love and are willing to fight for? Check. Oh yeah, I should also mention, they got a few passionate fans that show up for the games. Like seriously, when's the last time you heard a player complain about his time playing with the Sounders? I mean, it just seems like everyone is on the same page and everyone just wants to win. And speaking of winning, they do a lot of that. They're on their own impressive streak, having never missed the MLS Cup playoffs in their history. They won US Open Cups early, they've won MLS Cups recently, and in between those, they even managed to win a Supporters' Shield in 2014. But the only trophy missing in their trophy case, the same trophy that's missing in everyone's trophy case, was the most important trophy of all, the CONCACAF Champions League. And everything tells you that this should be MLS's best hope at eventually winning this tournament, except for their history of choking in this tournament. And after a while, after so many choke jobs, you kind of just start to expect it. After LAFC's run to the final in 2020, 2021 was a bit of a reality check. On the one hand, this was the first time that all 5 MLS teams advanced out of the round of 16. Yeah, over half of the teams in the quarterfinals were from MLS. That's awesome. And this included Toronto, who took out Liga MX side León. But after the quarters, just one MLS team remained. Liga MX spanked Columbus, Toronto, and Portland, and Philly made it through, but that's because they had to play Atlanta in the quarters. In the semis, they got spanked 4-0 in aggregate to Club America. Now, some people weren't thrilled about how Seattle qualified. Because the pandemic canceled the US Open Cup, it was determined that the last spot for the CCL, that is normally given to the Open Cup champion, would be given to the highest-ranked US-based Division I club, based on 2021 MLS regular season record, not already qualified. Personally, I think this was better than how they handled 2021 when they just gave the last spot to Atlanta for being the holdover champion from the 2019 US Open Cup. So, okay, a little bit lucky for Seattle. I'm sure some lower division teams felt a bit screwed for not even getting an opportunity. But then again, on the other hand, it's not like this spot was just given to them. They still needed to get a hell of a lot of points in 2021 just to get in. But I'm sure Seattle doesn't care what people think. They don't care how they got in. They're in, and now they are ready to battle. Seattle Sounders, Motagua. Oh, no, not another team from Honduras. Maybe it's still the PTSD from 2020 with Olympia, but this matchup just didn't make me feel great. Also, for all that Seattle has accomplished over the years, some were beginning to question, perhaps unfairly, perhaps prematurely, but some were beginning to question if Seattle's era of dominance was coming to an end. I mean, if you remember how last season ended for the Sounders, they lost in the first round of the playoffs at home to an RSL side that didn't even register a shot on goal. Yeah, can you imagine losing in the playoffs when the other team doesn't even have a shot on goal? When would that happen? The first leg in Honduras, scoreless. Not the most convincing performance, as they put out a pretty strong lineup, but were still outshot 11-6. But at least it's not a loss. And contrary to popular USMNT fan base belief, leaving Central America with a draw isn't a complete failure. But now there was some pressure in the return leg in Seattle. An away goal for Motagua would mean Seattle would have to win outright. And another subpar performance would probably mean the Sounders would be eliminated. That didn't happen. Not even close, actually. Minus this one chance early on, Seattle basically dominated from the opening whistle. A second goal early in the second half gave the Sounders some breathing room, and then a third goal gave them more breathing room, and then a fourth goal gave them more breathing room, and the fifth goal probably wasn't necessary, but man, did it feel good. As someone who isn't a Sounders fan but is actively rooting for an MLS team to win this tournament, it was nice to see the Sounders flex their muscles, assert their dominance, and beat a team they're supposed to beat. The only bad news, which was really, really bad news, was that Raul Ruidiaz, one of the most underappreciated stars in this league, had to leave the field at halftime with a hamstring injury, ruling him out for the next couple weeks and for the quarterfinal matchup. Seattle Sounders, Club Leon. Club Leon, arguably the best team in Liga MX in the last calendar year, but also a team with a miserable history against MLS teams in this tournament. Remember 2020 when they blew a 2-0 lead to LAFC? Or how about last year when they lost to Toronto FC, a team that wasn't even close to making the playoffs? No way they lose to an MLS team 3 years in a row. Right? Bang. Bang. Freddie Montero with 2 goals in a span of 8 minutes. 2-0 Seattle. And then in second half stoppage time, Jordan Morris with the dagger. Second straight home game at Lumen Field, second straight blowout for the Sounders. A win that felt extra sweet considering it was Leon who topped the Sounders in the Leagues Cup final a year ago. Rewinding back to 2018, we saw 3 MLS teams win their first leg quarterfinal against Liga MX teams. It was a historic round for sure, even though in the end, it was still Liga MX hoisting the trophy. With both the Sounders and Revolution winning 3-0, this also started to feel historic. But then Bruce Arena said this, and then Revolution gave up a 3-goal lead, and then the Revolution lost in the PK shootout. Oh, and NYCFC barely advanced against Comunicaciones on away goals. So yeah, not feeling so historic anymore. If the Sounders really blow this, we will literally never hear the end of it from Liga MX fans and the haters of MLS. Please, dear God, I don't ask for much, but please, do not let Seattle blow this. They didn't. In a masterclass of bending but not breaking, Seattle stayed strong and got their moment at the end of the first half. A PK was awarded and Montero slotted at home his 3rd goal of the series, and now 4-0 on aggregate plus the all-important away goal. This one was done. Sure, Leon did get a consolation goal at the end, but it didn't really mean anything. And for the second time in team history, the Sounders were heading to the CCL semifinals. Seattle Sounders, NYCFC. This was the first time in the modern-day CCL that two MLS teams met this late into the tournament. It also meant that a MLS and CCL Part 5 was inevitable. And as a neutral, I wasn't sure who had the better chance in the final. I know a lot of people look at the near collapse by City against Comunicaciones, but the way I saw it was that all those goals that were scored against them came after City subbed off their first team. So, okay, their depth is now in question, but their first team is still about as good as anyone in MLS. The Sounders hosted the first leg, and just like the last two rounds, got off to a good start. A beautiful build-up, finished off by the new signing from RSL, Albert Rusnak, in the 16th. But then, just 11 minutes later, 21-year-old Thiago Andrade equalized for City. The first away goal that Seattle gave up this tournament, a goal that Brian Schmetzer can't be too thrilled about, as Andrade was left wide open in the 6-yard box after the Sounders lost the header. It was really the first time in the CCL that they faced any bit of uncertainty. We've seen them fold under pressure before in this tournament, but was this Sounders team different? Well, they didn't sulk for too long. Javier Arriaga put one in, but it was called off for offsides in the 33rd. But just a minute later, Jordan Morris blasted it in, one-timer, a shot no keeper in the world would touch. 2-1 Sounders. They would keep up this pressure, getting more opportunities, and eventually earned another PK in which Ladero, cool as you like, sent Sean Johnson the wrong way. 3-1 Sounders, and yet another very solid performance at home. Second leg, Sounders traveling to the home stadium of the New York Red Bulls? Yeah, it wasn't even for a schedule conflict this time. Apparently, Yankee Field dimensions aren't approved for CONCACAF competition. I know it's easy to make fun of NYCFC for having a new home field for what seems like every game, but I just think that shows mental toughness. It shows that they're able to play tough wherever they land. But unfortunately for them, there is an advantage to playing at Yankee Field because they're used to the small dimensions, and they weren't able to use those advantages in this series. Raul Ruidiaz, now healthy after his hamstring pull, finishes off the Nuhu cross and gives the Sounders the all-important away goal and puts the aggregate at 4-1. Like the Leon second leg, they did eventually give up one in the second half, but another fantastic exhibition of bending, but not breaking. And just like that, the Sounders are now on to the finals. Seattle Sounders, Pumas. Also making their first ever finals appearance in this tournament were Club Universidad Nacional AC, aka Pumas UNAM. To get here, they had to get past Costa Rica Saprissa, they had to erase a 3-0 deficit against Bruce Arena and the Revolution, and they had to top many people's pick to win it all, Cruz Azul. And like Seattle, the formula was pretty simple. Survive on the road and dominate at home. Outscoring their opponents 9-2 at home in their first 3 rounds, the only team that was better at home was, of course, the Seattle Sounders, who, up to this point, outscored their opponents 11-1 at Lumen Field. Now, the one thing Seattle really had going for it was the scheduling gods. You see, the Liga MX season was coming to a close, and they were gearing up for their Clausura playoffs, and Pumas were right on the bubble of making it. At the time, they were sitting at 12th place, meaning they were in must-win mode just to qualify. The MLS season, meanwhile, is only about a quarter of the way through, so someone decided to give Seattle a break. While Pumas had 4 massive games in 12 days, Seattle had 4 games in 15 days, including an entire week off between Champions League final matches. Yeah, MLS wasn't messing around. They wanted to make sure Seattle was as fresh as possible for this one. Okay, this was it. Seattle and Mexico City for the first leg during a torrential downpour. Honestly, weather that they should kind of be used to, well, with living in Seattle and whatnot. The job was simple. Leave without having the series be over. Just give yourselves a chance at home in the second leg. A couple of early opportunities for Pumas handled by Stephen Fry, who up to this point had been having an excellent tournament so far. But then disaster for Seattle. A 50-50 ball inside the box resulted in Dineno falling down and the ref calling foul. Maybe it's the biased MLS fan in me, but I didn't like the call. It's certainly not the worst call I've ever seen, but it's not one I would have made. And apparently, I wasn't the only one to think that, as when Stephen Fry made the massive save on the PK, a swarm of people online all tweeted out the same thing. Ball don't lie. Except, we all spoke too soon. I mean, come on. This is CONCACAF. We should have known better. With VAR, they determined that Fry was off his line, which to their credit, he was. And retaking the PK is the right call. But what I want to know is why couldn't they have used VAR on the initial PK call? Why did it only come down to the PK save? Because CONCACAF. Amazingly, this is the first time all tournament that Seattle has been losing. This goal seemed to wake up the Sounders, though, as they pushed for an equalizer late in the first half. Seeing the João Paulo half volley from just outside the 6-yard box, sky over the bar, that one hurt. But then, early in the second half, Dineno again, his 9th goal of the tournament, and now it's 2-0. Oh boy, here it is. Here's the Seattle we were supposed to see. Here's the MLS curse rearing its ugly head again. Or maybe not. Maybe this Sounders team was different. Maybe that MLS curse was just a bunch of hogwash. Because unlike so many MLS teams before them, even after going down 2-0, they didn't crumble. They only seemed to get stronger. And they only kept fighting. And in the 73rd minute, they got their chance. A handball in the box, another somewhat controversial call, as some were arguing this was natural positioning and it was ball to hand, not hand to ball. Okay, I gotta be honest, I've always hated that argument. You can argue anything is natural positioning when you're sliding or jumping. So if I was FIFA president for a day, the first thing I would do is just change the damn rule. Anything from the elbow down, no matter what position, is a handball. No more arguing that. Okay, sorry for the rant. I've always wanted to get that off my chest, though. Anyways, yeah, Ladero finished it, and a huge goal for the Sounders. Personally, I would have taken a 2-1 loss heading home to the second leg. But maybe that's why I'm at home making YouTube videos and I'm not a professional soccer player. Because the Sounders didn't quit. And remarkably, in stoppage time, they got another penalty, the third one of the game. And again, a little controversial. I gotta be honest, just like the first PK, I didn't really agree with this one. I think Roldan was absolutely looking for contact, and I felt like he went down a little easy. But it's the CONCACAF Champions League final. Pumas were gifted a PK in the first half, so I didn't feel too bad about this one. Anyways, yeah, Ladero finished it. A huge goal for the Sounders. Tie game. After falling down 2-0 to come back and tie it up 2-2, absolutely massive. Seattle even managed to outshoot Pumas. Not that that really means all that much, but it does show that maybe Seattle wasn't all that much of an underdog in this one after all. However, the job wasn't done. Far from it. In fact, both Real Salt Lake and Montreal left Mexico with draws in the first leg of their finals too, and we all know how both of those series turned out. Now, for some reason that I cannot figure out, that I cannot explain, only for the final, away goals do not count. Why only make that rule count for the final? I don't get it, but essentially what that meant was that it was an even playing field for the second leg, and it was all up for grabs in Seattle. Leg 2, a CCL record crowd of over 68,000 packed into Lumen Field. Was this finally going to be the year?
The first half wasn't great. And by wasn't great, I mean damn near disastrous. In the 11th minute, fan favorite Nuhu Tola left the game with a quad injury. And in came Kellen Rowe. And then in the 29th, star João Paulo left with a knee injury. An injury that would later be diagnosed as a torn ACL. And he was replaced by 16-year-old Obed Vargas. I don't care if you're a talented prospect. I don't care if you're a wonder kid. Coming in off the bench in the first half of a final, that's a tough spot to be in for anyone. But one of the strongest aspects of this Sounders team was its depth. And both Rowe and Vargas stepped up, and the Sounders didn't lose a beat. Each team looked nervous and at times sloppy. There weren't a lot of golden opportunities.
Then it happened. A sweet solo run by Rusnak and the layoff by Arriaga, the shot by Rui Diaz, the deflection that left Talavera spinning like a washing machine. 1-0 Sounders. And just like that, we were halfway there, halfway to glory. For what wasn't the best half of soccer, Seattle had to be happy holding on to a 1-0 lead. The game opened up in the second half as both teams were finding their rhythm. Fry with the play of the game with this huge save off the header from off the turf. Fry coming up big in a final. When have we seen that before? And just as doubt was starting to set in if Seattle was going to be able to hold on, in the 80th minute, oh my God, it was really happening. 2-0 Sounders. I was still celebrating when just 8 minutes after that goal, Ladero put in the rebound to officially put it away. The final whistle blew, and it was all over. This wasn't just a win. This was a statement. The Sounders didn't crawl over the finish line. They sprinted through it. They dusted Pumas. The Seattle Sounders, the fucking Seattle Sounders, were champions of the CONCACAF Champions League. And for the first time since the tournament rebranded to the Champions League, Liga MX would not be hoisting the trophy. For the first time, MLS was lifting the trophy. Oh my God. It's now been some time since that glorious night, and I've done some reflecting. Yes, this was historic, but in the Sounders' history, it kind of felt like deja vu. Like I said, they've always been good, but in the beginning of their MLS existence, they just could not figure out how to win in the playoffs. They couldn't quite get past the Galaxy dynasty of the early 2010s, having lost to them 3 different times. I think those playoff failures helped shape this team. It made them tougher. It made the front office realize they had to go out and spend some cash. And eventually, in year 8, 2016, it all came together when the Sounders topped Toronto FC in the PK shootout in MLS Cup. The Sounders had multiple failures in the CCL, just like they had multiple failures with MLS Cup playoffs. This win means so much. No, it doesn't mean that MLS has surpassed Liga MX. They still got a couple trophies on us. But it is the first real step to eventually catching Liga MX. No longer is this dark cloud of never winning hanging over the league. An MLS team making the CCL final used to happen once in a blue moon. It's now happened 3 times in the last 5 years. Mark my words, this will not be the last time an MLS team wins it. It's not just a monkey off the back, it is a full-grown gorilla, and man, does it feel good. Congrats, Sounders fans. You have officially reached the CONCACAF mountaintop. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more MLS content, and I'll see you next time. Verteidige den Fluss.